In 2018, my family, my dad especially, my mom and dad went through something really tough. It was funny, it was right after Father's Day, because for Father's Day I had gone home to hang out and whatever, see my dad. They were still living in Louisville at the time. And for whatever reason, I can't remember why, my dad showed us his calves. Like, I remember that because it becomes important. I don't know if he was showing us his tan line or what, I don't know, but they were fine. Then the next day I get a text from my mom. She says, your dad's in the ER now. In the Wolf household, this is not an abnormal text to get. This is a text that I get probably once a year. Your dad's in the ER. So I text back, do you need me, whatever? And she's like, actually, yes. And I thought, oh, snap. This is not good because he does not usually, she usually doesn't say, yes, I need you to come. So I packed a bag for a couple days and I drove down to Louisville. And when I got to the ER, my dad was the ER was slammed. He was in the hallway. He was in so much pain, he was puking. Now we're talking about the man who exploded his finger and still moved the rock and drove himself to the hospital. He was puking, he was in so much pain. His leg was giant and swollen and red. My mom was really stressed out. You could see the infection streaking up his leg. Anyone who knows anything about medicine knows that's bad. So over the next couple weeks, it was touch and go. He doesn't remember. He has lost 3 or 4 of those days. He was so sick, he literally doesn't remember them. He said, because then my brother came down, I had to go somewhere. And my brother came down, my dad says, when he woke up and saw my brother there, he's like, oh snap, I'm in trouble. Because my brother doesn't usually come down to visit. And so over the next 2 weeks, basically every other day, he had another surgery. He was in ICU for a month. And after that, he was moved to not ICU. And then he went to the rehab center for another month until he could walk up and down stairs. We almost lost him. He almost lost his leg. Fortunately, he came through it. But during that time, so this was June, my dad still owned a landscaping business. My parents had their house on the market. So my mom was going to the hospital every day to be there for surgeries and be there for him and all that. She's trying to run his business and he was the main worker. So here she is trying to cover his jobs, trying to find people who would be willing to do his lawn mowing and all that stuff. They had 3 dogs, one of which was a puppy, if any of you had a puppy, and her house was on the market. So my mom was going through all of this. And then one day she called me and she was just in tears. And I was like, what's going on? And she said her male dog, he had somehow gotten himself wedged under the bed in the middle of the night. So in the middle of the night, all by herself, she had to find a way to lift a king-size Tempur-Pedic mattress. If any of you know about Tempur-Pedic mattresses, they are super heavy. She had to figure out how to get her dog out from underneath this bed in the middle of the night by herself. And it just broke her. She was already daily barely holding it together. So it was a terrible, horrible time. And then my dad came out of it and he came home. And even once he came home, he still needed a lot of help. He was on a walker for a long time. And then he was a cane. And even once he was mobile again, by 3 o'clock, he was done. No matter what he had done, by 3 o'clock, he had to sit down. He was wiped out. It took him years. And even still today, by 5 o'clock, he's done. We're talking about the man who used to go work a 10-hour shift at the Ford plant and then come home and spend another 4 to 5 hours building a house. And he still walks with a cane because he's got some mobility issues, and he's way more dependent on my mom than he ever used to be. And she loves him and she's happy to do it, but also it's really tiring. If any of you have ever been in a situation where you're caring for someone that you care for, whether it's a parent or a spouse or a child who really has a lot of needs going on or multiple children, it's exhausting. It's good work. You're grateful to do it because you love them, and also it takes it out of you. It's really tiring. And so my question is, what do we do with that? How do we get help when we are in that situation? Well, the good news is, while Jesus didn't talk about caring for an elderly person in his life, we know he cared for people all the time. If you've ever watched The Chosen, There's the one scene that really stands out to me, like from dusk till dawn, from dawn till dusk, Jesus is caring for people. He sits in a tent all day and doesn't eat while there's like a line of hundreds of people waiting to be healed and to listen, like to talk to him. And he stumbles into his tent at the end of the day. And I imagine that was a regular occurrence for Jesus. So while he didn't care for a singular person, he cared for a lot of people all the time. And that was exhausting for him. And then he taught his disciples to do the same thing. He taught them to go out and to teach and to heal and to do all these things. And there's this point in time where he's trained them up and he's like, all right, guys, team up and go out and do what I've taught you and come back and tell me. And so they all come back to me and they're super excited because it went great. And they're also exhausted because caring for large masses of people is also really exhausting. And so this is the scene. They've just come back from, a couple facts just so you know. 65 million people are caring for someone in their home, like taking care of someone. And also the average person who takes care of someone, 25 hours a week. 25 hours a week, that's like a part-time job. And most of the people who are caring for someone are my age, they're in their 50s. And so they are probably still have a regular job. So in addition to doing their regular job, they're also taking care of someone, and that, it's a lot. But Jesus understands. He says the apostle gathered around Jesus, and they were telling him all the cool things that had done, and they taught. And then because so many people were coming and going, they didn't even have a chance to eat. So they're doing all this great stuff, but they're hungry. And so Jesus is like, hey guys, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest. He recognizes that caring for all these people, while great work, is exhausting. And so what does he tell them to do? He says, let's go take a break. Let's get a nap. Let's get a snack and a nap. It is okay to rest. Some of us don't think that's possible. We don't think it's right. We think we're not allowed to rest. We've got all this stuff to do all the time. One of the girls that gave her testimony last night, she's a freshman in high school, and she's ate up with sports, like she's really big into sports. And she said she gets to the point where she's so involved in sports that she's exhausted. Body, spirit, and soul exhausted, and she felt like she was never allowed to rest. How does a 13-year-old think they're not allowed to rest? But so many of us think we're not allowed to rest. I'm not allowed to get any me time. I'm not allowed to take a break. And Jesus is saying, you need rest. God understands the value of rest. He himself made the world in 6 days. It was awesome, and also it was a lot of work. And what did he do on the seventh day? He rested. He took a break. If even God can take a break, you can take a break. If you are overwhelmed caring for everyone else, it is okay and you should take a break. It's so important. At one point, the disciples, or actually not the disciples, the Pharisees are trying to trick Jesus. And they're like, so Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And he says this to them. He says, love God with all your heart and your mind and your soul. And so he says, this is the first. This is the greatest commandment. The second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. Now we see love your neighbor and we think, okay, I got to pour myself out for that person. But he says, love your neighbor as yourself. He's saying, love God first, spend time with God first, go to God first, and then love people just as you love yourself. You are not loving yourself if you wear yourself out trying to take care of everybody else. It's kind of like the airplane adage, right? Like if the plane's going down, what do they tell you to do first? Put your own mask on. How can I help anyone else if I'm unconscious? How can I be any good to someone else if I burn myself so out that I can't help anyone else? We are told to love our neighbors as ourselves. We are told to love ourselves enough to take the rest that we need. We need to take a break. It is okay to take a break. It is biblical to take a break. When you are caring for someone, when you are wearing yourself out for someone, it is okay and you're supposed to. Jesus doesn't say, my suggestion to you is to love God. I recommend that you love. He says, I command. This isn't just some like polite little suggestion. This is a hard truth. This is his number one and his number two. Love God first, and then love others as you love yourself. We've got to take care of ourselves. And then Jesus says, or in Isaiah says, like, have you not heard? Like, we've got to go to God when we need help. When we need help, we go to God, and God gives us that rest. God gives us our daily bread. And sometimes my daily bread is rest. Sometimes my daily bread is a break. Sometimes my daily bread is getting a little me time in. And we need to ask God. You might be thinking, Stephanie, how am I going to do that? How am I going to get this? Michelle's probably thinking, Stephanie, I got 3 kids. That ain't going to happen. I got to feed them. You got 6 between you? You have 6? Wow. Yeah, so you're probably thinking, how's that going to work? 6 kids. Okay, if you live with that person, how am I going to do that? Or you're, how am I going to do that? Go to God. Ask God to help you. I can't solve that problem for you, but God can. Right? He says, in Isaiah, it says, don't you know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God. He is the creator. He will not get tired. He understands what you're going through. He gives you strength when you're weary and increases your power when you're weak. Even young people, they get tired. Even young people stumble. That little 13-year-old yesterday telling her story, she said she was so exhausted she wanted to end her life. That's how tired she was. And she's 13. Think about how much energy a 13-year-old has. So those of us who are not 13, it is normal to get tired. Even youth get tired. It says, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They are going to soar on wings like eagles. They are going to run and not grow weary, and they will walk and not be faint. When you rest in God, when you put God first, when you turn to God and say, God, I cannot do this anymore. I'm too tired. He will make a way. I mean, I've been in the fall. I can barely breathe in the fall. Like, school starting, cheerleading season, church stuff, like everything, all the things are happening in the fall. And I'm exhausted. And there are times I will look at my calendar and I'll see 1 to 2 things on my calendar every single night after school. And I think, it's funny, I think back to my 30s. I'd have 2 or 3 things on my calendar every day after school. I don't know how I did that. And I'll be like, God, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. It's too much. How am I ever going to breathe? I'm exhausted. And every single time I have said to God, here's my calendar, help me. Something has happened over the course of the week to create space. A meeting gets canceled or moved. Someone doesn't need my help and they thought they needed my help. Something comes up that takes things out of my schedule. Or someone helps me do something that I needed to get done, whatever. But God has made a way for me every single time I have remembered, and I don't always remember. Every time I take my schedule, I go, God, help. He helps me. He gives me the strength to get through it. He creates space for me to breathe. If you surrender to Him and go to Him and put Him first and say, God, I'm tired. I need help. He is faithful to do that for us. He's a good God. He doesn't want you to be exhausted. He doesn't want you to be so overworked that we get sick ourselves, that we collapse in exhaustion ourselves. That's not His plan for us. So I've got a couple practical tips. Obviously, ask God first for a solution. I read this great book. It's called Sacred Rest. And I always thought rest was just sleep. And this book says, no. I mean, yes, there's 7 types of rest. And sleep is just one of them. And it talks about all the different types of rest. It's a great book. If you are a person who constantly feels tired, it's a great book to give you some practical tips on how to not be so tired all the time. But one thing I remember from that is she says, people think they need this big break. They think they need like a vacation. They think they need like 7 days. But actually, even just taking a 20-minute break every day, even finding just that taking a couple little 15-minute breaks during the day and doing something you enjoy or doing something that brings you peace, that will also bring you the rest that you need when you're exhausted. So if it's your lunch break, instead of sitting in the lunchroom with everybody, maybe go take a walk in the sunshine. Okay? See if your neighbor will come over and watch your kids or your mom or whoever so you can take a shower and go for a little walk or whatever. See if someone will take over for you just for a minute. Ask God if your whoever will take a nap so that you can get a break. Whatever. Take those little micro breaks where you can get those. Those also help. And we've got to learn to stop overcommitting. I do this. I was complaining to Jill about how exhausted I was and how tired I was once. And she's like, well, you sign up for every committee. And I was like, yeah, but she's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, because they need someone. She's like, right, they need someone. They don't need you. I'm like, but I can do it. She's like, yes, you can. But this is why you're so tired. I'm like, but each of them only meets 2 hours a month. She's like, yeah, but you're on 4 or 5 committees. So that means every week you've got a committee meeting. And that's wearing you out. And I was like, oh, you're right. And so I quit some of the committees that were not bringing me life, that weren't essentially something I had to do. So sometimes we got to learn to let go of some of the stuff that is not essential for us to do. And sometimes we got to give ourselves some grace. Just understand you can't do it all. And it's okay. It is okay to ask for a break. It is okay to take a break. You're not a bad person if you take a break. You're not a bad person if you ask for some help. It is okay. Give yourself some grace that you don't have to be the one who does all the things all the time. And take a shortcut. Someone needs, I'll use Michelle for example. Claire there's a bake sale. Michelle could make one of her fabulous cheesecakes. But how many hours does that take?
It's a 2-day process.
It's a 2-day process. Or Michelle could go to Kroger. And as much as her cheesecakes are amazing, and I very much appreciate them, at a school function, ain't nobody gonna know the difference. They'll know because yours is good, but you know what I mean? They will be just as happy with a store-bought something. Sometimes we need to take the shortcut, and that's okay. Sometimes it's okay to get Kroger groceries delivered instead of going to the grocery store. Sometimes it's okay. There's even laundry service. My neighbor's, she's full-time job, going to school. She's super busy. She has a laundry service. She puts her laundry on the porch, and on Sundays, they drop off, pick up, and her laundry's done, and she doesn't have to do it. So sometimes it is okay when you are in that season of exhaustion to take the shortcut, to ask for someone to help you to do those things. You guys, we are made to be people who have rest. God says to us, come to me when you're weary and I will give you rest. So if you are a person who is overwhelmed, overburdened, whether it's caring for someone or just life in general is kicking your butt right now, come to God and ask him for help because he is good. He is a good God who helps us when we ask him, who gives us our daily bread when we are starving. And sometimes our daily bread is rest. He will give that to you. So I dare you this week, take 15 intentional minutes alone with God, no phone, no multitasking, and just be. Sit and pray, as Greg says with his cat. Can be with your pet, okay? And just soak it in. Just be. And you can ask God, what am I doing that's taking energy from me that doesn't need to happen? Where am I running on empty? Where's a place where I can let go of some stuff so that I can get the rest that I need? I changed the R to this week from read to read and remember. Matthew 11 says, come to me, all who are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. So when you're be like, God says, come to me and I will give you rest. God, I'm coming to you. Give me rest. Okay? And then engage. Who's someone else who's in your sphere and be like, dude, I'm tired. I'm tired. I need rest. And maybe they'll offer to help you and take the help. And maybe they'll just pray with you. And maybe they'll just be like, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. Who knows? But it's okay to say to someone, I'm tired. It's okay to say to someone, I can't do that. I'm exhausted. I don't have the bandwidth for that right now. I'm sorry. That's okay. And look around your sphere. If you're not in that position, look around your sphere. Is there someone in your sphere who is running on fumes, who maybe you could find a way to help them? God wants us to come to him for every need that we have, and that need can also be rest. So I entreat you this week to find time to go to God and to find the rest that you desperately need and deserve. And all of God's children said, Amen.